Greetings and salutations, Sandman Nation. We are dead in the middle of February, the most depressing month of the year, and football season is officially over. But you know what? We are still in a great mood today, and it is going to be another awesome show. So let's get into it because it is time to enter Sandman Sports. With me, as always, is the one and only Mr. Pat Klett. Pat hates February too, but just because he's competitive and doesn't like anything that comes second. His college girlfriends didn't feel the same way. And then there's the Sandman himself, who never comes in second to anything or anyone. This man is so legendary. Whispers out of DC are that Trump is now considering changing the name to the Gulf of Sanders. So be sure to get those maps reprinted soon. Okay, before we get into the show, let's tell everyone where they can find us. Well, Sandman listeners, you can find us everywhere, just like failed attempts to make all-star games relevant. I mean, seriously, guys, please stop it. Name the teams, but don't play these meaningless, stupid games. What the NBA did this past weekend was just ridiculously bad. Okay, well, one place that is never meaningless or stupid is our awesome and jam-packed website. So visit us at entersandmansports.com. Tons of new stuff added every day, including our newest video feature, Bierman's Bet of the Day, which features, you guessed it, the bet I like most each day. If you go to our site, you can easily subscribe and won't miss any of them. These are other places where you can follow us as well. Instagram at Enter Sandman Sports, Facebook at Enter Sandman Sports. We post updates almost daily. And then our YouTube channel, of course, at Enter Sandman Sports. Hit that subscribe button. All right, boys. Well, let's get into it. Our opening today is going to be a twofer. Both are movie related, but slightly different angles for this. So first, my wife and I, we rewatched The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2 this past weekend, and I forgot how awesome those movies were. And yes, while both are great, I, like many others in this country, liked Part 2 slightly better, and I think most would agree it is the best sequel ever made. So it got me thinking, what are some of the other best movie sequels ever? It doesn't have to be a direct sequel. It can be part of a series. It can be the fourth, fifth, whatever. But just a movie that, generally speaking, is a great standalone movie, and it could be argued that it is better than the original that started it all. So, well, let's start with this one, and then I'll share my second question in just a moment. But for now, I just want to hear from you. What are some of the best movie sequels ever? Pat, why don't you start us off, buddy?
First of all, The Godfather is an all-timer. It's the best. Grab the cannoli. There's so many good things about it. We need to spend time just talking about The Godfather. It's so great. There's so many good things about it. You know, Michael's killing everyone while his son's getting baptized. There's so much going on in that movie. It's such a good film. So thank you for bringing it up. It's an all-timer. Other sequels. All right, I'm going to do a voice for you, and I want you to tell me if you can tell what sequel this is. Are you ready, Eric?
I'm ready.
I think you'll get this one. You merely live in the dark. I was born in the dark. Bane from Batman?
Oh my God. Oh, that was so good.
I didn't know it.
Dude, if you had said it one more time, I think it would have got it.
Citizens of Gotham. He's so good. But anyway, so I was looking at these and I thought, are they sequels if it's just if it's a series? But when I was looking up sequels, they kept bringing up Batman, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, all those. I mean, those are all solid. But if it has to have a part 2 on it, I would say my two favorites were Lethal Weapon 2 and Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Okay.
Yeah, those were both good movies.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, the Batmans and the Indiana Jones and the Star Wars, those are all fantastic. James Bond, does that count?
I mean, any of them count. It doesn't have to be just the second one, but yeah, I mean, I thought about the James Bond ones because there are a lot of really good ones there. I didn't go there, but yeah, I mean, I think like an Indiana Jones could count for this.
Okay. Well, good for you,
Why
Eric.
wouldn't that one count?
I don't know, because it doesn't have the number 2 on it. I figure a sequel's got to be like a part 2.
3, right?
Hot
3
Shots
would
Part
still
2.
be a sequel. Yeah, Hot Shots Part 2.
Which is actually pretty funny. It's actually pretty good.
It was.
But those are mine, Eric. What about you, Bill?
Those are great. I mean, I just love that you named the 2 that I had. Lethal Weapon 2, Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Beverly Hills Cop 2.
I just such good
buddy cop films are the best. Cop films are so good.
That's what I was gonna say, and I think you guys will both appreciate this. But Bierman, do you have Lethal Weapon 2 on your list?
No, I don't.
Okay. So
Riggs
I was just gonna say, like, yeah, I mean, Riggs and Murtaugh, South African smugglers, cougar ants, like the whole thing was so great. And then how about Rika Vanden Haas? I mean, how
she was hot.
Was
she was hot.
Patsy Kensit. I didn't know her name until I was looking it up, but oh my God. And then they introduced Joe Pesci into the franchise.
That's a good one. I actually didn't think of Lethal Weapon 2. That's a good one.
Yeah, so good. When she died, and remember that whole scene where she was
in the trailer?
Man.
Well, and then the guy, the South African guy, worst. Like, diplomatic immunity.
Yeah. Good call. Blick. I love that whole thing when he. Oh, clever. Yeah. Anyway, that was great. But my third one, because Pat named the first. I mean, Beverly Hills Cop 2, also a really good movie. Some of these ones I thought was funny. It was so good. Like so good. Eddie Murphy was so good in that whole franchise. But my third one was Mad Max Fury Road. And I wasn't a huge Mad Max guy.
No, but that's a good one.
Tom Hardy that dude is so good. And then Charlize Theron always been one of my favorites. And she was just such a badass in that movie. And one of the things about Fury Road that I loved is like that movie starts and then it is nonstop. Like until the very end of that film. I mean, it is just like go, 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 go. And that whole thing just was such a kick-ass movie. So anyway, those were my 3. But Bieran, what'd you have?
Yeah, those are really good. They're all wrong, but they were really good. Now I am surprised you guys didn't mention one. My number 1 here would be Top Gun Maverick. It's impossible to follow up an 80s classic like
That was
Top
a
Gun,
terrible movie.
Oh, are you kidding me?
That was the worst. Dude. They rushed through there's no reason to have a love connection between the two.
You are not seriously telling me Top Gun Maverick was a bad movie. It was a
forced love connection between Tom Cruise and who's that, the whatever her name
Jennifer
is.
Conley. Yeah. One of the hottest chicks ever walked the face of the earth. There was no build up to
that love story. They just threw it in there.
It's
a terrible movie, Eric. I quit.
Oh my God.
Leaving.
Oh my God.
Eric, I actually thought Maverick might have been better than the original.
It was. I would absolutely say it's better.
No, yeah.
I would absolutely say it's better.
I honestly, I have to just raise my hand and say I messed up. That has to be at the top of the sequel list. I just forgot. I forgot that one.
Thank you. And I forgot about Lethal Weapon 2. So
yeah,
I will throw that on my list. If you throw Maverick on there, it sounds like Pat freaking hates
Pat's
it.
evil eye. The thing is,
you
Pat,
merely live in the dark. I was born in the dark.
I just my computer just came back on.
I'm just gonna speak in my Bane voice the rest of the day, just for fun.
Here's okay. So then my other. This is funny because my next one was going to be The Dark Knight Rises. I love that movie so much, but if we're actually talking best sequels, not so much favorite sequels, best sequels, then I'm gotta go with The Dark Knight, even though I actually like The Dark Knight Rises better. But I mean, Heath Ledger Joker, I mean, it's phenomenal. So and then I'll throw one other one in there. I loved, you guys know this because we talked about this I think on the very first episode. I love The Terminator. It's one of my favorite movies.
Oh, good call.
But Terminator 2,
yes,
I think actually was better. Robert Patrick was just awesome as the bad guy. Arnie coming back, but this time being good. Linda Hamilton was a badass. So I like that one.
Was AC/DC's song Big Gun? Was that from Terminator 2? Because that's pretty sweet.
I don't remember that.
I don't know. Yeah.
Was 3 the one with the young guy? I can't think of his name right now. Kid actor, young kid.
Well, the
Terminator
second one
3?
was.
or was that
Second one
Terminator
had
2?
Edward Furlong.
Yeah,
in
Edward
it.
Furlong.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was a great movie. Yeah, that was
it
great
was good. It was good.
Yeah,
So,
dude,
all
nice
right.
call.
Yeah,
Well done, Bierman.
that was fun. I love talking movies. So that was a good one, guys. All right, we're gonna keep talking movies, but we're gonna change it up a little bit. So it was President's Day yesterday. We are taping this on a Tuesday. So let's talk a little bit about movie presidents, and more specifically, who are the best movie presidents ever and why? So Pat, what do you got on this one?
This is a tough question. I mean, the only one I could think of off the top of my head was Bill Pullman in Independence Day.
Yep.
And then the other one I thought was Dennis Haysbert as President Palmer in 24.
Dude,
but that's not a movie. That's a show.
No, dude, I almost texted you guys today. I was thinking about it a few hours ago. I almost texted you to say, hey, we can do TV presidents too.
Nice,
because David Palmer has to be on that
killed
list.
It. He was great.
Yeah.
Mine's from TV
the
too.
only one I could think of was Bill Pullman from Independence Day.
Yeah, I thought.
And then
he didn't make my list.
Yeah,
no problem.
I couldn't. I'm out on this one.
All right.
Yeah,
Bill,
I had to cheat. Well, I had to cheat a little bit as well. I went with Martin Sheen from West Wing.
Yeah, that's a great one.
And because I kind of did the same thing Pat I think was describing. I was like, okay, this guy and this guy, but I mean, for me, Martin Sheen, I actually wished that he could be elected president. Like as I was watching that show, I don't know, there was just something about the guy that I just loved. So anyway, it was like, what I love is that, of course, it's Hollywood and whatever, but Aaron Sorkin, the dialogue of that show, I don't know if you guys were West Wing fans, but I actually really did enjoy the show. And it was like, he always was like duty first, family first. Like he just seemed like a good human being. And that to me has not been the case with the presidents of our country for a long time. And so anyway, I am a huge Jed Bartlett fan. So he was that was my favorite one.
I never watched the West Wing, but this one, guys, this was hands down number one for me. I didn't have to think hard about this one. I gotta go with Harrison Ford's President James Marshall in Air Force One. I mean, the guy, he's just a badass. He stays on the plane to fight the evil guys. But most importantly, he's a Michigan fan in the movie. He's actually watching the Michigan Notre Dame football game. That's all he wants to do. So
that's great.
That's all it takes.
And it's take much. It's a good movie.
It doesn't take much. Yeah. Nope. Give me Harrison Ford as a Michigan fan.
Oh yeah. And then President Palmer on 24. Come on, that guy was.
I still have you guys. I've never watched 24. I've never watched a single episode.
What was the thing we talked about a couple weeks ago? Dude, I just watched that 2 days ago. My wife and I watched it on Sunday.
Never watched it. Dude, I know. I gotta watch
that movie.
I know. It's on my homework assignment. I gotta do it.
God. All right. Well, guys, thank you for sharing your thoughts on sequels and movie presidents. Well done there. So I guess it is time to get into today's show now. As always, we will start with headlines from the past weekend. We'll get into our hot takes. Then we'll get into our stone cold locks, where this week the focus will stay on golf and we'll head south of the border. Then we will get into this week's top 5, which will be a good sports related one. And of course, we'll have plenty of fun and shenanigans along the way. And Pat will recite the alphabet backwards in Portuguese. So stay tuned for that. All right. Well, since there was no football, the headlines were a little lighter this past week, but there was still plenty that happened in the wonderful and wacky world of sports. Let's start with golf at the Genesis Invitational, where Sunday saw a crazy finish. Maverick McNeely shot an incredible 8 under 64 to be 11 under for the tournament and was alone in first place late in the day. And it looked like Maverick might walk away with the win. But that was before Swede Ludvig Åberg shot 4 birdies in the last 6 holes, including a birdie on 18, in order to win by 1 stroke. I'm not sure if you guys saw that live or not, but wow, that was compelling stuff for sure. All right.
Unbelievable.
Well, in men's basketball, number 6 Houston traveled to number 13 Arizona and beat the Wildcats 62-58 in an important Big 12 game for the standings, but also for bracket seeding when the tourney rolls around here in a few weeks. In another top 25 tussle, number 16 Wisconsin went on the road to Purdue and dealt the number 7 Boilermakers their second consecutive loss. Staying in the Big Ten, number 20 Michigan traveled to Columbus and beat Ohio State 86-83, and that win puts Michigan squarely in first place in the Big Ten with a 12-2 conference record, and they're 20-5 overall. I had no idea that the Wolverines were doing that well this season, so good for them. And in the biggie of the weekend, number 1 Auburn won the Iron Bowl on the hardwood when they traveled to Tuscaloosa and beat number 2 Alabama 94-85. Boy, the Tigers look like the real deal this year. The NBA paused for the weekend due to their all-star activities, but halfway through the season, division leaders include the Celtics, Cavaliers, Magic, Thunder, Lakers, and the Grizzlies. The NHL has also been on hold this week while the Four Nations face-off occurs, replacing its all-star game. In NASCAR news, with the only sport that starts with their Super Bowl, William Byron wins his second straight Daytona 500, so congratulations to him. And in super unsurprising news, Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter declared for the NFL draft and should be a top 5 pick. Okay, guys, decent amount happened for a week after the Super Bowl, so looking forward to hearing your hot takes. Yes, that's right. It is time for Sandman Sports Hot Takes, brought to you by Mike's Hot Honey. This honey's so hot, I wouldn't kick it out of bed for eating crackers. If you haven't tried it yet, I implore you to give it a shot, as it very well might change the lives of your taste buds. Go to mikeshothoney.com right now and order some, or go to the honey aisle at your local grocery store. All right, Pat, why don't you start us off with some of your hot takes?
All right, I'm going to start with hockey. You know, hockey was awesome. It started when I watched the Canada-Sweden game, which was great, went into overtime. And then I don't know if you saw the battle between Canada and the US, but Canada,
Yes.
the fans booed the national anthem. So within 9 seconds, there were 3 fights, and the USA boys went to town on the Canucks. But it was a tight game. Like, there wasn't a lot of end-to-end action. It was really kind of it was bottled up. The teams are just so fast, so good that there's not a lot of space to do much. So I'm hoping Thursday, and that's why we lost to Sweden, because we didn't really care. We had already clinched. It didn't matter. We'd already clinched the spot in Thursday's championship game. So I'm hoping Thursday, Sunday, maybe a little more end-to-end action, a little more space, because that game was, other than the fights at the beginning with USA Canada, it was a pretty tight game. Not a lot of movement, not a lot of room to move. So good defense by the US, of course. But other than that, I did watch the Alabama-Auburn basketball game. That was fantastic. Alabama came back and gave them a battle, but basically it was Auburn, had them the whole game. And there's so many solid players on Auburn. Defensively, they shut down Mark Sears, and Bama has a remaining schedule. I don't know if you saw Alabama's remaining schedule, but everyone they're playing is ranked, and they finished the season against number 5 Tennessee, now number 2 Florida, and then they play Auburn, their last regular season game, number 1 Auburn. So they are going through a gauntlet. So for the end of the year, your question is, and leading into the SEC tourney, it's quite the schedule, and you just wonder, is it going to make them battle tested, or are they going to be just exhausted? It's fun to watch. SEC is fantastic. And then golf, my picks decided not to show up this week. I don't know where they went, but it was brutal. But I loved that Thursday, gusty winds, rain. I was texting you guys about how awesome that is to see these guys suck and look human, and so I had hoped that weather would stick around, because it was fun to watch those tough ones. But the thing about Åberg, I was watching that, and they weren't really talking about him or showing him, but he was in that leaderboard. He was at like -8 at the time, and he went on a run. He had 4 birdies in his last 6 holes. But McNeely, that kid was -8 after 11 holes.
Yeah,
and he was
crazy.
on a tear.
59 watch.
but then he slowed down and settled in and stalled out, which is it was great. And then that clutch putt by Åberg on the 18th to seal it was cool. The only other thing I'll say about golf, Scheffler is sneaking around on the leaderboard, and he's gonna hit one of these weeks. You can just see it.
Three-peat at the Masters?
Maybe he's lurking. Yeah. Let's just say that he's lurking. But golf's such a crapshoot, you know. It's such a hard thing to predict, which is why I'm excited about, you know, picking some golfers this year, because it's so hard to get it right, you know. Whereas football, it's like you pick a winner or a loser. You're either on one of the sides. Golf, there's so much. It's hard to pick, but and then I finished out the weekend watching the documentary on Prime about the show Austin City Limits, which was cool. I don't know if you guys ever watched that show, but it's music. They bring in musicians, and it's fun to see how that show has evolved over the years. But it's basically just live music, and they bring in, you know,
Is it all? It's all country music.
It was back in the day, and then they switched over to. They brought in some indie rock.
Okay.
And they opened it up, but at the beginning it was all very country. Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard, you know, you got all these country acts, and then they started evolving a little bit, and it was fun to see how that show, because I used to watch that a lot, Austin City Limits on public television.
I don't know it.
No. Anyway, so that was my weekend. I hung out with the family a lot. It was great. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome. Yeah, I mean, Pat hit on with the things I had as well, but just one thing I'll call out about the hockey game. Shout out to my buddy Jeff Heil, who, you know, was in the Rangers system, knows NHL and hockey backwards and forwards. His son Caleb is, you know, in the national team pool for the USA, best goaltender, I think, under the age of 18 in Minnesota. Pretty cool to see. You know, he'll be in the NHL at some point, which is pretty cool. But Heil said before that game started that there would be fights right at puck drop. And then to watch the game and see the Tkachuk brothers like go just get into it in that first 9 seconds. And I think JT Miller was the third guy. But I'm texting Heil, I'm like, you were right. It was just so cool to see that. And especially after the crowd booed, you know, the US, the national anthem. So what a game. It was fun. Pat, you nailed it. I mean, there wasn't a ton of action. I thought it was surprising in a way to see our defense play so well, but Canada's defense as well. And then Connor Hellebuck, like that guy is so good in goal, and made a lot of good saves, kept the U.S. in it at key moments, you know, PKs and otherwise. But I just love, you guys know this about me, but I love national team sports. And so to see the U.S. and how much the players care, and then Eric, you mentioned this at the beginning, but to see how little the NBA players care in that All-Star game. I thought, you know, what they're doing with this Four Nations tournament is pretty cool, because you see like how much it actually means to these guys. And so it's just really a fun event, and Thursday is just going to be a blast. I mean, I can't wait for that game against Canada. You know, and in Boston, it feels a little bit like, you know, it's tough to win those 2 games in this situation. So I hope the U.S. can bring it again and take this down. But for me, my other hot take was Ludvig Åberg. I mean, Pat mentioned it as well. The dude is like a robot. He is a machine. 4 birdies in his last 6. Did you guys see that 2-putt on the 72nd hole? I mean, you know, he bombs this 3-wood to the back fringe, and then that is an impossible putt to hit that thing back down. And then I think he had like a 6-footer to win it or something like that, you know, and just absolutely center of the cup. So Ludvig's awesome. Obviously he was crazy in his first round at the Farmers a few weeks back at Torrey Pines. It's one of those ones where I'm like, why didn't I have this guy? I mean, the guy's not puking every 3rd hole. He's actually a pretty good golfer. Really cool to see him do well, and excited about the future with that guy. It's hard to imagine him not winning a major this year. The game is just, you see him swing the golf club, and it's like, why can't I swing like this? I mean, there's just no wasted movement. He's just flushing the ball every time. It's pretty cool to see. So anyway, those were my hot takes. Bierman, how about you?
Those are good. Thank you, gentlemen.
By the way, Bierman, is that a Columbus Blue Jackets
it
shirt
is
you're wearing?
Columbus Blue
Attaboy.
Jackets. Yeah,
The hockey guy.
Figured hockey.
Yeah.
Hockey's kind of
Yeah,
hot right
look,
now.
see,
So.
Oh, the
Oh
Kraken.
my God.
Yeah,
Wow, we
I should have grabbed my Wild jersey. I didn't know.
You
I didn't
did.
know we were going hockey.
Go get
team.
that Timu Solani
Yeah,
jersey.
Temu.
All right. Well, so guys, college football season ended several weeks ago, and I'm already needing a fix. And I'm guessing some of our listeners might feel the same way. So I'm going to actually start off my hot takes by reminding everyone of the big coaching changes that occurred this past offseason. I'm going to focus solely on the power conferences, where surprisingly there are only 6 new faces in head coaching spots. And as a reminder to everyone, or in some cases it might be new news, because I'll be honest, I didn't even know a couple of these even occurred. So here are the newbies in no particular order. So former Jacksonville State and West Virginia head man Rich Rodriguez went back to West Virginia. Former Patriots big guy Bill Belichick is now at North Carolina. Former Nebraska and UCF guy Scott Frost is back at UCF. Former UNLV head coach Barry Odom is in at Purdue. Former Washington State coach Jake Dickert is in at Wake Forest. And former South Dakota State head coach Jimmy Rogers is in at Washington State. And I just have to start by saying, yuck. That list includes 2 guys going back to their old schools after less than great stints in other places, and a 72-year-old guy who is at best going to be there for 2 years before either retiring for good or heading back to the NFL. But I do like his girlfriend. So no, I do not love these hires, with 2 minor exceptions. I'll start with Jake Dickert, who in 4 seasons at Washington State took them to 3 bowls. And some of this occurred during, all the Pac-12, Pac-2 commotion. I think this guy is a good coach, and I can't blame him for leaving Washington State. But to Wake Forest,
yeah.
It might be a slight upgrade, I guess, only because they are in a power conference. But it just seems like a questionable decision to me. I think he'll do okay there, and I guess he could build on the mid-level success that Dave Clawson found. But unless he has a magical and lucky 12-1 or 11-2 type season, I'm just not sure this is going to serve as the stepping stone.
Or Sam Hartman's going to come back.
Yeah, Wake, they don't have the resources to ever be a consistent player. They're the small school in the Power 4. Regardless how good their coach is, it's going to be difficult to win there. I think Dickert was a good hire for Wake, but I'm just not sure it's going to result in the type of success that Wake or Dickert is actually hoping for. But the hire I think was the best was by Washington State, as they tapped South Dakota State coach Jimmy Rogers to replace Dickert. Coaches who have a lot of success in the FCS moving up to the FBS typically works out well. Chris Kleeman and Kurt Signetti are 2 recent examples. I think Rogers has the potential to be a good one, as he was at South Dakota State for 12 years, most of them as an assistant coach, but he was instrumental in building that program into an FCS powerhouse. In 2023, in his first year as head coach, he guided the Jackrabbits to the national championship. He's only 37 years old. Very talented. So, yeah, I think it's a good hire for Washington State. But again, I think their best case scenario is for him to have a couple good years and then he'll bolt. There's just no way that he's going to stay there long term. But unlike with Dickert, I'm not sure Rogers had a lot of other options, and he's familiar with that part of the country. And Washington State still has the resources and name brand to be successful within the realm of Mountain West and other non-Power 4 schools. So I am convinced he'll recruit well. I think he'll use the transfer portal, and I think he's actually going to win pretty big time there for a couple years. And then, you heard it here first, he'll be the new head coach at USC in 3 years. Book it right now. That's what I'm telling you, man.
All right. I had my wife doesn't watch sports or like sports at all, but she started asking me questions about Belichick and his girlfriend. Like, I know, like, why is she with him? Like, why do you think he's got got money?
I think we can answer why is he with her and why is she with him?
Yeah,
pretty easily.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's what I told her. I'm like, I don't fault him. Like, he's probably thinking to himself, I got 4 good years left, 5 good years maybe. Like I better go
Yeah.
out with a bang.
Yeah, so to speak. Anyway, we don't talk much about college baseball here, but that season just started, and I do have to call out one interesting player. Stanford freshman Rintaro Sasaki, the all-time home run leader in Japanese school history, is crushing it. The talented first baseman went 6 for 14 with 8 RBI as Stanford won the first 3 games of their series at Cal State Fullerton. Sasaki was projected to be the top prospect in the 2024 Japanese baseball draft, but opted to bypass so he could attend college in the U.S. and play here. He is already off to a great start. It's going to be very interesting and fun to watch him. Can you say Shohei Ohtani, anybody? And does he pitch?
Is he a dual threat? Can he pitch and bat?
I don't think he can pitch, but the guy's supposed to be pretty special, so keep an eye on him. He's only a freshman there.
Okay.
That might be the one and only time I ever talk about college baseball.
College baseball.
All right. Well, it is now time to get into our Stone Cold Lock segment. Last week, we previewed the Genesis Invitational, gave our picks for that one. We were hit and miss on those, mostly miss. None made the top 10, but we did have a few make the top 20 in Morikawa and McIlroy. But man, Pat, you and I really missed the mark on Sepp Straka. I mean, he finished, I think, third from last.
Sanjay M? What was Sanjay doing? Like,
yeah, miscut.
Man.
Yeah.
Justin Rose, mine, miscut.
Yeah. He struggled.
Not good. But this week we head south of the border, to the Mexico Open. So let's break this down. We'll share some of our players and bets we like again for this tournament. So Pat, why don't you start us off, buddy? Who do you like?
All right, man. I got I'll pick 3 like I usually do. Let's go Kurt Kitayama. He finished runner-up to John Rahm 2 years ago, and when Rahm wasn't a douchey defector. Otherwise, Rasmus Højgaard versus a weaker field has a chance to crush. I mean, and then give me 2 gloves, Aaron Rai.
Yeah.
2 gloves, Aaron Rai is probably due to finish in the top 5, but I hate this tourney, guys. It has one of the weakest fields and what looks like a town course and has 0 signature holes. It's almost unwatchable every year, unfortunately. I mean, even if you're betting, it's so hard to support this tournament. It's just there's nobody good.
I feel the exact opposite. I hear you, but I love that it's a weaker field, that it's these guys that actually now have a chance to win a tournament. And I'm going to name a couple that have been actually playing really well, but just couldn't get over the hump. And now they actually, I think, have a chance to do it. So, but I hear you on the course. The course is not
I feel like Rasmus, this is his chance to step up and get that big win. I think if I were to pick any of the 3, give me Højgaard.
Yeah, I got Rasmus. I got Rasmus on my list as well, Pat. I also am I don't know how off the grid this one is, but I'm going with the defending champ, Jake Knapp. He's been playing better. The guy hits it a ton. His approach to green numbers were off the charts last year. I expect that it's going to be the same this year. Give me Jake Knapp. I saw he was at plus 2,800 to win. And then my third guy is Michael Kim. The guy has just been absolutely rock solid in 2025. He had a solo second at the Waste Management. He finished 13th at the Genesis. Enough said. Give me Michael Kim plus 2,800 to win the tournament. Yeah.
I didn't pick him. I didn't pick him because he stole money from me by getting at the Waste Management.
Yeah, I know.
I think he like drained a birdie on the 18th, and otherwise I would have been in the money. So anti Michael Kim, even though that's a good pick.
I hear you. Yep. Bierman, what do you have for this one? I agree with Bierman. I agree with Bierman, Pat. I like this tournament from a betting standpoint because there's so much parity. in some of the pools that we do, this one's fun because you just have no clue who's going to be up there in that top 10. But anyway, Bierman, what do you got?
Yeah. So a few pop out for me. I'll start with Sam Stevens. I have a good friend who's an Oklahoma State grad. We were actually watching the Farmers together a few weeks ago, and he was rooting hard for Stevens, who ended up coming in second place to Harris English. So I've been following him. This guy's good.
I like that.
He's top 50 in driving distance, CN saves, ball striking. He's number 3 in bounce back, which is a stat that I really love, which for any listener who might not be familiar with that, it's the percentage of times you follow up a bogey or worse with a birdie or better on your next hole. So it just shows resilience, which you really need in golf to be good. He's made 13 consecutive cuts. And since he finished second back at the Farmers, he's been in the other 3 tournaments heading into the final day. He's finished 17th, 44th, and 31st. So he's top 5 as far as the favorites go in this tourney, but I still like the odds. He's plus 2,200 to win, plus 400 for top 5, and plus 225 for top 10. Another guy I really like this weekend is Harry Hall. His stats have been so impressive this season. He has 2 top 10 finishes. He's 41st in greens and regulation, 23rd in CNC, 16th in scrambling, 2nd in putts per round, 6th in putting average, 4th in bounce back. Just very impressive. And this is the type of tournament where I think he's like a prime candidate to just to get to number 1 there. So he also has good odds, plus 3,000 to win, 550 for top 5. But then this guy, you talked about Justin Rhodes as a dark horse last week, Bill. This guy is a true dark horse too. And I love this. I love this pick because I was doing research. Ben Coles. This guy's stats are crazy impressive this year. He is 10th in putting average, 10th in greens and regulation, 2nd in driving accuracy, 6th in ball striking, 5th in bounce back. He was cut at the Waste Management. He didn't play at the Genesis, but he finished 21st at the American Express. I mean, again, is he the favorite? No, certainly not. But that's what I love about. He's got great stats. He could easily put it together for 4 days, and he's plus 12,000 to win. Okay. Plus 2,000 top 5, plus 900 top 10. You want to just throw a couple bucks, plus 360 for top 20. I'm telling you right now, this guy is finishing at least top 20 in this tournament. So,
yeah, let's go.
I love that.
What do those 3 guys have in common?
They're all top 5 in bounce back.
None of them have been in my kitchen. And 2, I've never heard of them, which is why we got to bring back these live golfers. It's stupid. No more of this. I don't want to hear about these no names.
We got to bring back the live guys.
Bring back the live guys. We're all in agreement on that one. No doubt. Yeah. So.
No, I like your picks though. I like your picks.
Yeah, we'll see. I feel good about all 3, but we'll see. All right, fellas. Well, let's dive into this week's top 5. I got inspired for this one last week when a local sports media guy here in Cincinnati wrote or posted that he thinks George Brett and Moses Malone are 2 all-time greats who don't get enough love when people talk about all-time greats in their respective sports. So it got me thinking. I love just interesting questions and provocative questions like that. So it got me thinking, what might a top 5 look like around this topic? It isn't necessarily underrated, although I suppose you could certainly look at it that way, but it can be people in the Hall of Fame. It can be players who many acknowledge as all-time great players, but it's really more players that possibly get lost in the shuffle. And you just want to remind us of the greatness, the true greatness of these players. They could get lost in the shuffle or forgotten for a variety of reasons. Perhaps they played a long time ago. Maybe they were jerks off the field. Maybe they never won titles. Maybe they played on a team or during a time when other great players overshadowed them. So there could be a lot of reasons why, but this is our time to pay homage to players who just deserve a little more love. Pat, why don't you kick us off?
Struggle.
This is a hard one.
Struggle was real with this top 5. I've never had a top 5 where I've just felt so
Oh, that's not true.
Lost.
That's not true.
That's not true.
Oh wait,
It's
the
not
helmet
true.
one.
The
Yeah,
helmet.
yeah,
Helmet.
okay.
That's not
that's
true.
right.
Yeah, fine.
Bierman and I were on the same page.
We almost had to cut that one.
Oh, okay. Well, anyhow, I went with number 5. I went with John Stockton, the
Yes.
distributor,
Oh, that's a great
the
one.
team
That's
player.
a great one.
I like
How about him?
Stockton.
Yeah.
I mean, had they won more or not played in the Jordan era, you
Yeah.
might hear more about him. But even when people are talking about the greats and stuff, Stockton and Malone, they were good. And Stockton, for me, I like the guys that are like point guard distributors. The guys that's a true team player. He's dishing out dimes and making you look good. So yeah, John Stockton was my number 5. And my number 4 kind of went along the same line. John Paxson for the
Mhm.
Bulls.
Oh, yeah.
For the
Yeah.
Bulls.
Like that.
I feel like when I watched the Michael Jordan thing and rewatched it, they didn't really give him a ton of love. And I felt like I just remember him draining threes, like clutch threes all the time.
He was clutch.
He was so
drained
clutch,
a
was he
lot
not?
of threes.
And I just feel
Yeah.
like he was not discussed enough in the Jordan
No.
thing. So give me a couple.
That's a great
short
example,
little
though,
basketball
because
players.
of course he's going to be forgotten in overshadow because he played with frickin' Jordan and those great
Right.
teams. So yeah, that's a. I
So
would
I'm doing
agree. That's a
okay
great
so
one.
far. I'm
Yeah,
doing
those
all
are
right.
solid.
Way
Those are
better than
solid.
the helmets. Way better than the helmets.
Okay.
Well, and because I struggled because Stockton came to mind for me, but I was like, how can we call Stockton underrated, right? Like,
Right.
but Pat, I agree. I think he.
When do you
I
ever
think
hear
he
about him?
was.
You never
Yeah,
hear
he
about him.
was. He was. My number 5. You guys maybe have never heard of this guy, Alex Honnold. No, I'm kidding.
Shut up.
I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That
My
was
number
funny.
5 is Dennis DJ Johnson.
Oh, that's
So-
a good one, dude.
DJ.
That is
So,
so true.
DJ.
Yeah.
So
Lays it
love.
in.
That's right. DJ with the steal, like with that
Lays
guy
it
from
in.
yeah, like that. So DJ was helped bring the first championship to Seattle with the Sonics. So I have a soft spot for DJ as a Sonic, but then obviously more people know him because of all the work that he did in the 80s with the Celtics, that whole dynasty era. And I don't know if everybody would remember, but DJ was just an amazing defender. And what I love about my favorite players through the years have been the guys who just work their butts off on defense. Like I love that whole thing in probably all sports, the guys that work so hard. So kind of the predecessor to one of my favorite all-time athletes, Gary Payton, I guess. The stats,
that's good.
The stats weren't always amazing for DJ, but he averaged 14 points a game, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. But the guy what I love, he's the ultimate team player. And he always just he like forego his own stats for the success of the team. So DJ gets my number 5. Number 4, definitely a name that's off the grid a little bit, but John Olerud. Do you guys remember John Olerud?
Yeah, he's a good hitter. He wore the batting helmet at first base.
That's
Yeah,
right.
he
That's
did.
right. He had an aneurysm, and is why he wore the helmet. But and a funny story with Ricky Henderson, who we talked about a few pods ago. But Ricky apparently came up to Olerud when they were both in Seattle and said, "Hey, I used to play baseball with the Mets with a guy who wore a helmet like that." And Olerud was like, "Yeah, that was me." So I don't know if that story's true, but it's just a great Ricky Henderson story. But Olerud, I don't know if you guys would know this, but he played at Wazoo and pitched and was a first baseman for the Cougars in college. Eric, it was awesome that you mentioned college baseball earlier because I was smiling thinking about this. But Olerud was just an unbelievable college athlete. He was an unbelievable high school athlete for Interlake High School, which is very close to where I live now. And, he's a great golfer. He's just a great all-around athlete. But the guy just had an unbelievable career at the plate in baseball. I mean, was
he a
the
career
research.
300 hitter? Is he?
He
was over 300, right? Yeah,
that's right.
Wow.
He finished.
I never would have guessed that.
Top 50
sure.
and top 50 of all time in doubles, 65th of all time in on-base percentage, top 150 in hits. He has the NCAA two-way player award is named after him because he pitched and hit. the Shohei Ohtani, right?
Nice.
In college. So anyway, so that was my 5 and 4. Little shout out to the local boy, John
Wow,
Oliver.
you guys are crushing this so far. For
That's
two people who thought this
what
was
we
hard, a hard
It was
list
a
to come
tough
up with.
category.
Those
Yeah,
are
tough.
you guys started off hot. So all right, so my first two, I would say are definitely considered quote unquote jerks by most in the sports world. But I don't think that takes away at all from their talents, their impact, and their accomplishments. So my number 5 is Mr. Albert Bell, who played for 12 seasons from 1989 to 2000, mostly for the Indians.
Yeah.
He was more known for his prickly personality and his temper, but dude, this guy, he was a great player. He was a dominant power hitter in the 90s. He made history in 95 as the only player ever to record 50 doubles and 50 home runs in the same season. And by the way, that was a 144 game season that year. He was also the first Major League Baseball player to secure a contract worth more than $10 million per year, which just seems so quaint now that we're talking about that.
That's like a utility player.
It's cute.
Yeah, he was a 5-time All-Star and a 5-time Silver Slugger. He posted a career batting average of .295. He averaged 37 home runs and 120 RBIs per season for 10 seasons. He remains one of just 11 players in Major League history to notch 9 straight 100 RBI seasons. He set career highs in home runs, RBIs, batting average, runs scored, and walks all across 5 different seasons, which I think is just very interesting. And he narrowly missed out on the American League batting title, finishing just behind Paul O'Neill in 1994, 359 to 357. He batted 357, which again is just so impressive. So
Crazy.
the guy, he was never liked by the media. He certainly had a temper, but he was one of the best in the 90s. And I think he deserves a lot of due. Oh, and by the way, I had dinner, beers, and played billiards with Mr. Bell. Yeah, the girl I was dating at the time lived in Cleveland, and her sister dated him for a couple months. This was mid-90s.
Wow.
Jacobs Park had just opened, so he gets us great tickets one day. It was a Saturday, so we go. I mean, it wasn't up like in a suite, but it was like front row, like right by the dugout. We're sitting there at a great day. Then he met us after the game at a bar/restaurant. He was actually a really nice guy. We had a fun time. We hung out for a few hours and never saw him after that. But and yeah, in case you're wondering, the sister was hot. Okay, number 4. So this guy was also known as a jerk, and his stats weren't phenomenal by any stretch, but he made a massive impact, and I truly don't believe his team would have won the championships that it did without him. This is the original bad boy himself, Mr. Bill Laimbeer of the Detroit Pistons. Laimbeer played 14 seasons in the NBA, 11 of them with the Pistons. He averaged 13 points and 10 rebounds per game for his career, so certainly not anything to get too excited about. But the reason I think he needs more due is because he literally changed the way the game was played under the basket. Just like a hockey goon there, who's there just to start fights. He was a physical enforcer, guys, under the basket, and his entire game was meant to intimidate his opponents so they wouldn't come under there. And it worked. It made players play more timidly and not go under the basket. So the Pistons won 2 NBA championships in 89 and 90. And while I said, his stats weren't incredible, he was a 4-time All-Star during the 80s, and he led the NBA in rebounding in 1986. So to me, I just love the guy because he's proof that you can make a difference and help your team win by doing things that aren't easily seen on the stat sheet. So that's my number 4.
Who else did Laimbeer play for? I couldn't think of a single team besides the Pistons.
The Cavs. He actually started with the Cavaliers. His career.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Okay,
played
cool.
The first couple there.
All right, well, my number 3, 3 and 2, I'm not super excited about. 3 is Harrison Smith. I mean, that's a homer pick. Harry the Hitman.
Stud.
He's quietly one of the best in the game. His stats rival Troy Polamalu. He's when it's all said and done, I mean, we probably need a championship for him to be a Hall of Famer, but he's got Hall of Fame stats and he just gets it done and he cares and he works his butt off. And so I've always liked Harry the Hitman. He's my number 3. And number 2, I went tennis, and I don't usually like talking about tennis, but Andy Murray is a guy. Andy Murray won 46 titles and 3 Grand Slams, but was always overshadowed by Nadal, Federer, and Djokovic. You know, you play with the greats in that era, and you know who knows what he could have done if those guys weren't around, because he's a good player. I mean, he's solid, and he made a lot of good runs in these major championships. But when you constantly playing Fed, Nadal, Djokovic, you know, what do you do? So those are my 3 and 2, but I'm excited for my number 1. Just wait.
Nice.
All right.
Good tease.
Yeah.
Yep. Those are good ones too. I mean, Harrison Smith, I love that guy.
Yeah.
Those are good ones. My number 3 is Vlad Guerrero, the OG.
Junior or the big
not
one?
Junior.
No,
not Junior. Look, this guy was a 9-time All-Star in 16 seasons. Okay, he was an MVP in 2004. I just don't necessarily feel like the guy gets his due as one of the all-time greats, but you could not name one hitter in my entire lifetime that I was more scared every time this guy came up to bat against the Mariners. He's considered one of the best bad ball hitters of all time, and it was like you couldn't get the guy out because he's going to swing and miss at this slider that's way down and away. No, he just like buries the thing into the right center field, into the gap, right, for a double. You just groove one over the plate. The dude was depositing it 450 feet out to left center. I mean, I felt like the guy's bat looked like it was a 40-inch bat that weighed like 300 pounds. I mean, the guy just always was hacking this log and just drilling baseballs. So Vlad Guerrero, and I put the OG. He was my number 3. The other thing too, besides his prodigious power, the dude had a cannon for an arm. And I just, again, I love defensive players. You know, you try to run on that guy, he was going to just absolutely bury you. So Vlad's my number 3. My number 2, this is one I don't feel great about, you guys, because I would be curious to hear your opinions if this guy is underrated at all. But in my mind, I was thinking about this guy as someone who is one of the greats of the game, and I don't feel like he's ever mentioned with the greats of the game, and that is Hakeem Olajuwon for the NBA. I mean, is he considered a great?
I think that absolutely qualifies for this.
No, okay, thank
I
you.
Would totally
I appreciate that.
List.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like a stretch to call him underrated a little bit to me, but you know, I was in doing the research. 9 times all defensive team, 2 times champ with the Rockets, averages only 22 points a game, but it was a different era, right? And the guy's footwork, how silky smooth he was, but he was also one of the best, if not the best, defensive centers of all time. And the dream shake obviously has moved, but just the battles through the years with the Sonics, going to playoff games, the dude would light us up every single time in the playoffs. He's just one of my favorite hoopsters of all time outside of the Seattle Sonic guys that I love so much. So Hakeem got my number 2. Herman, what do you got for your 3 and 2?
Yeah, so my number 3 is similar in the sense this is an all-time great, but I just don't feel like this guy still gets enough respect. And I'll give you an example. So I Googled best catchers ever, and this guy came up 6th all-time on a list, behind the most overrated catcher ever, Carlton Fisk, and barely ahead of number 7, Mike Piazza, and number 8, Buster Posey. In my book, Johnny Bench will always be number 1, but Ivan Pudge Rodriguez
awesome.
Has to be number 2, hands down. To say anything else is just disrespectful.
He was great.
He was great. So listen to
Good
this
one.
pitch as to why he's number 2. See what I did there? Pitch.
Yeah, that was nice.
Anyways.
You framed it.
Yeah, thanks.
Look
at this. All right. Yeah. He played 20 seasons. He was a 14-time All-Star, a 13-time Gold Glove winner, 7-time Silver Slugger. Career batting average 296, He won the 1999 American League MVP. He won the 03 World Series with the Marlins. He played in the 06 World Series with the Tigers. He set the Major League Baseball record for most games caught, 2,227, which surpassed Carlton Fisk. He holds the best career caught stealing percentage. This is crazy to me. Caught stealing percentage, 45.68%. The league average is 31%.
Wow. Yes.
And that is, I mean, that's crazy. He recorded nine seasons with a caught stealing rate of 50% or higher. He's near the top ever in putouts. Only Yadier Molina has recorded more putouts as a catcher. He has the most hits by a catcher.
And Bill's former girlfriend.
If only I could see you right now,
she
Pat.
puts out.
He has the most career hits ever by a catcher, 2,844. So I just always love this guy. He's one of the all-time best, and I just want everyone to realize how good he was. And then number two, this guy, this guy played on what most people consider the greatest baseball team ever. But when naming the best players on this team, he would probably be fifth or sixth, but it just doesn't take away from how good he was. I'm talking about Dave Concepcion, the shortstop for the Big Red Machine, a guy who played 18 seasons in the big leagues, all of them for the Reds. He was a 9-time All-Star, 5-time Gold Glove winner. He was without question one of the three best shortstops of the 70s, if not the best. The problem for Davey was that these were the names of his teammates: Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, Joe Morgan, George Foster, Tony Perez, Ken Griffey Sr. Three of those are Hall of Famers. A fourth is Pete Rose. So, I mean, those are just incredible guys that the guy played with. He was simply overshadowed by other talents on his team. And so it was easy to forget about him, but he was instrumental in their success and just an all-time guy. All right, what do you got for number one, Pat?
All right, guys.
Let's go.
So here I am trying to come up with my list. I'm in the car, and a song comes on the radio, and it's The Doors. And I'm thinking to myself, I know it's not a sport, but how underrated are the other members of The Doors? Like, imagine having to hang out with your shit-faced friend all the time. The guy's a walking disaster. And you get basically just, those people, they're just a mess, and they have to hang out with them, and they put together some great music. So give me Robbie Krieger, John Densmore, and those members of The Doors, because Morrison was such a shithead and such an idiot that they are underrated. Everyone thinks The Doors, Morrison's so great, man. He's a genius. He's a turd, man. These guys had to prop him up and yeah. So give me.
I wonder what Bane would think of Jim Morrison.
He'd be like,
oh, here we go.
Well, Mr. Jim Morrison, you, my friend, are an idiot. You're lucky you have those other bandmates with you, because you are a blubbering idiot.
We got the other members of The Doors is the most underrated.
I know I went off center a little bit, but you know what?
Dude, it's okay.
Dude, hey,
I can't think of
it. Outside the box thinking on this podcast.
So.
I love it. Oh, that is hilarious.
You, my friend, are an idiot. Citizens of Gotham.
The voice is good.
That's pretty good.
All right, Bill, what do you got?
Here's the problem with my voices. I won't be able to shut it off for 2 days.
I keep getting a little Connery in there.
My wife will be like, yeah, it is getting a little bit. Hey, shuck it, Trebek. Yeah.
I love it. For my number one, boys, I actually brought along a little prop. I'm going to give it a little shout out here. So hold on. I got to take my headphones off for a second.
It is.
Is that Gary Payton?
The glove?
Oh, Jack Sigma.
Jack Sigma.
There it is. Jack Sigma,
Nice.
baby.
Auto? Is that an
So-
auto? Autograph?
So you
Dude.
see the little autograph on there?
Yep.
So
Dude. Yes. I love it.
this, I mean, what can you say about a guy, right, who is like my childhood number one player for my favorite team, and then at some point, and I hope Jack's okay with me sharing this right now, but the guy actually plays in our Sandman stuff. He's a part of Sandman Nation.
No way.
And so just one of the coolest things in terms of like highlights of my career, if you will, with this project that we've been on for 20 plus years. And Jack's been playing in our stuff, I would say, for the last, I don't know, what do you think, Eric? 7, 8 years, maybe?
I'd say 5 or 6, but yeah,
5
it
or
might
6.
be that
Okay.
many. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 or 6. So just such an honor that Jack's playing with us, and I know he listens to the pod as well a little bit. So shout out to Jack, Mr. Sigma. But this is not just I love the guy and I have the jersey. I named my fantasy basketball team after him. Like all these things as just a fanboy through the years. But Jack's also a hell of a basketball player. He was a coach in the NBA as well. There's a lot of stuff that I tried to model even my game as just a shorter white guy after him. The inside pivot, high release jump shot. The guy was just absolutely clutch, great shooter. Did you guys know that he led the NBA in free throw percentage one year as a center? As a 6'11"
Wow.
center, he
That's
led the
impressive.
NBA in free throw percentage. I mean, the guy's a 7-time All-Star. He won a national or an NBA championship with the Sonics in '79. I mentioned DJ earlier. It was his teammate. Jack Sigma is just a great defender, and he was a great passer. He also was up in the top in rebounds every single year that he played in the NBA. And so the guy's just an all-around fantastic player. You wouldn't think of him as one of the greats. Obviously, I don't think he would come up on any lists, but he's just a phenomenal player, phenomenal athlete. His perm game too, the hair. You guys remember that? I mean, it's just top notch.
Of
The
course.
guy's just like got all the riz you'd ever want in a pro athlete. So Jack gets my shout out, and he's my number one underrated player.
Love
Nice.
it. Maybe someday Mr. Sigma will come on the podcast. And
We'd
talk
love to have
us.
you, Jack.
We would love to have him come on and join us. All right. My number one, this is another guy who was overshadowed by other greats. Not so much on his own team, although there were a couple of those too, but more so across the league at the same time he was playing. And I am talking about Mr. Philip Rivers, the longtime quarterback of the San Diego Chargers. Rivers, he played 17 seasons in the league, most of them with the Chargers. He was selected to the Pro Bowl 8 times during his career, led his teams to 7 playoff appearances, 6 with the Chargers, 1 with the Colts. He won 4 division titles, helped the Chargers win their first playoff game since 1994. He led them to the 2007 AFC Championship game. He never made a Super Bowl, unfortunately. He retired.
But he made tons of babies.
He did. He was high on that list. Yes.
Prolific.
Yes. He retired 5th all time in passing yards and passing touchdowns, the highest among quarterbacks who never appeared in a Super Bowl. And gotta share the Iron Man streak, 2nd all time in consecutive regular season starts. From 2006 to 2020, he never missed a game. So he's widely considered among the greatest quarterbacks never to play in the Super Bowl. He played at the same time as Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, and Aaron Rodgers. So yeah, he's often forgotten, but he shouldn't be. He's an all-time great. That's what I got, guys.
That's a great one. Love Rivers.
Well, thank you.
He's fantastic.
Yeah,
he was a
I
good
thought
one.
him as well. Yeah,
I didn't think of
those,
him, so I brought up the Doors.
The Doors.
Nice.
The Doors.
Well, you mentioned Rivers a few pods ago, Pat. So I thought you were going to have him on there for sure.
Yeah. When I think of most underrated band members from the 1960s, the Doors are definitely within my top 20. So
for sure.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Love it.
I mean, can you imagine them every night being like, God, I hope Jim's sober enough to perform so we can get paid.
God. Yeah.
Terrible.
I love The Doors.
Have you seen the movie with
The Doors?
with Val Kilmer? The Doors.
Yeah.
I have not seen it. I
Oh,
know
really
that's
good.
like
Really
I should
good.
see it. Yeah, I actually like biopics like that, so I should see it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, boys, that was a good one. Thank you for joining in. It was a nice way to pay respects to some of the all-time best. Sandman Nation, though, unfortunately, it is time to exit Sandman Sports. It's been another fantastic show with you, gentlemen. Before we do exit, though, a few reminders of where to find us. Follow us, like us, subscribe to us, and spread the word. Instagram at Enter Sandman Sports. Hit that follow button. Facebook at Enter Sandman Sports. Join the conversation. Stay updated. YouTube at Enter Sandman Sports and our website at entersandmansports.com. Enjoy the weekend, Sandman Nation. Thanks, as always, for joining us. Peace out and take care.